Bernard Tobin here for RealAgriculture.com, coming to you today from just south of Collingwood, Ontario. I'm joined by Gerard Peinenberg from Syngenta. You are the seed care specialist, right?
For Ontario, yes.
For Ontario. And we're going to talk a little bit about seed deflectors. A lot of discussion today about how to mitigate risk to bees and pollinators. And Gerard, you talked about the work you're doing on deflectors. Tell us about your objectives for this day.
Our objectives today were to look at the dust mitigation with the use of deflectors and talk about our pilot project that we had in the spring of 2014 where we had Ontario participants put a deflector on their pneumatic or vacuum planters and then ask them to complete a survey during, before and after planting on how it performed. If they saw a proper seed singulation with and without the deflector, and if there was any negative effects, whether that be loss in vacuum pressure, back pressure on the system, and of course how the seed singulation worked out.
Right. So we're just going to take a couple of minutes. We're going to do a walk around on this planter. We're going to look at the deflector, see the ins and out of it, and then we'll talk about against what some of those producers you've been working with, what they've learned, and what you've heard from Europe. How about that?
Of course. So currently I'm standing in front of a John Deere 1750 corn planter, and this planter has a vacuum system on it to help with the seed singulation and the placement of seed. If you look at the back, this is a standard new version of the John Deere fan system. Where the deflector starts to take place is the metal bracketing around that deflector or the fan housing. We'll call that the adapter. And that adapter there is preventing the air and the dust from coming out either side of the fan housing and concentrating it all to where that tube would attach to at the front. If you had an older style older style planter with an older style fan housing, this would be the adapter you'd use. So over here at the front of the machine, we're going to focus our concentration on this tube, and from that tube we were at the fan housing, which then had the fan diverting all the dust into the adapter. Through that adapter, the dust is going to flow to the tube, and then we need a mounting bracket to mount that tube and the deflector onto the planter. So this is where this tube comes from, and there's various mounting options depending on the style and the options you have with the John Deere deflector, John Deere planter. At the bottom of the tube we have a diffuser box, and that diffuser box is used to increase the area in which the airspeed or the dust is being exposed to. So as you increase the area, you're slowing down the airspeed of that dust. Below the diffuser box is this rubber skirt, and the rubber skirt we're trying to position an inch to half an inch off the ground when the planter is in operation. This will allow for debris, rocks to go under it and not have any planter breakdowns. So what we're trying to achieve with the deflector mounted onto the planter is we're trying to take the airspeed coming out of that fan housing. That airspeed can reach, depending on the planter type, 110 kilometers per hour. We're trying to take that airspeed and slow it down as slow as possible. And instead of deflecting the dust into the atmosphere or directly into the air, which some planters without a deflector will have, we're taking that dust and putting it onto the ground. And when we put it on the ground with that deflector, we're actually reducing the airspeed to approximately 15 kilometers per hour as a maximum. So we're significantly reducing the airspeed and the dust with the use of the deflector. So in France, in 2012, we had over 12,000 farmers with this deflector technology built onto their corn planter. In prior years of testing, over multiple years, we saw that the amount of dust being released from off-field drift reduced by about 50 to 90% with the deflector technology. In Ontario this year, we wanted to take the knowledge we've learned from our European colleagues and bring that to a local level. This spring, we were actively recruiting participants to be involved in this study and had an overwhelming response. Due to supply constraints to the deflectors, we only could have 28 participants in the study. Of those 28 participants, 26 were John Deere farmers and 2 had the Kinsey planter. Initial results were that we saw no issues with planter performance. Number of skips and doubles and singulation was next to nothing. The installation time for the planter took between 2 and 4 hours depending on the complexity of the planter. As we get to the John Deere 1790s with the inner rows, there's very little room left on the toolbar to install the deflector. Another comment I'd like to make is that the reason we're validating with local planters is planters in Europe tend to be a little smaller than what we can see in Ontario. In Ontario, farmers have over 16 and possibly 24 row corn planters. So with the larger planters, we wanted to make sure that there was no issues with the singulation on planters of that size. We're hoping to have the data completed and compiled and talking with our partners and stakeholders this month, and hopefully have the results to the public by early fall.